Chapter 18. The Very Last. The princes returned to Gluckstein on the carpet, and went in the best inn where they dined together and slept. Next morning they, and the ambassador, who had been told all the story, and Lady Rosalind, floated comfortably on the carpet back to Falkenstein, where the king wept like anything on the shoulders of Alfonso and Enrico. They could not make out why he cried, nor why Lady Molinda and Lady Kathleena cried, but soon they were all laughing and happy again. But then, would you believe he could be so mean? He refused to keep his royal promise and restored Prigio to his crown princeship. But Prigio, very quietly asking for the head of the Firedrake, said he'd pour the magic water on that, and bring the Firedrake back to life again, unless his majesty behaved rightly. This threat properly frightened King Grogno, and he apologized. Then the king shook hands with Prigio in public, and thanked him, and said he was proud of him. As to Lady Rosalind, the old gentleman fell quite in love with her, and he sent at once to the royal chaplain to get into the surplus and marry all the young people off at once without waiting for wedding cakes or milliners or all the rest of it. Now, just as they were forming a procession to march into the church, who should appear but the Queen? If you remember, Her Majesty had been traveling by post all this time, and luckily had heard of none of the doings since Prigio, Benson, and the King left Gluckstein. I say luckily because if she had heard them, she would not have believed a word of them. But when she saw Alfonso and Enrico, she was very much pleased and said, "Naughty boys, where have you been hiding? The king had some absurd story about your having been killed by a fabulous monster. Don't tell me. I always said you would come back after a little trip. Didn't I, Prigio?" "Certainly, madam," said Prigio. "And I said so too. Didn't I say so?" And all the courtiers cried, "Yes, you did." But some added to themselves, "He always says, did I say so?" Then the Queen was introduced to Lady Rosalind, and she said it was rather a short engagement, but she supposed young people understood their own affairs best. And they do. So the three pairs were married with the utmost rejoicings. Her Majesty never, her life so long, could be got to believe that anything unusual had even happened. The honeymoon of Prince Prigio and the Crown Princess Rosalind was passed at the castle, where the prince had been deserted by the court. But now it was delightfully fitted up, when Master Frank marched about the house with his tail in the air, as if the place belonged to him. On the second day of their honeymoon, the prince and princess were sitting on the garden together, and the prince said, "Are you quite happy, my dear?" And Rosalind said, "Yes, quite." But the prince did not like the tone of her voice, and he said, "No, there's something. Do tell me what it is." "Well," said Rosalind, putting her head on his shoulder and speaking very low, "I want everybody to love you as much as I do. No, not quite so very much, but I want them to like you. Now they can't because they are afraid of you, for you are so awfully clever. Now couldn't you take the wishing cap and wish to be no cleverer than other people? Then everyone would like you." The prince thought for a moment. Then he said, "Your will is law, my dear. Anything to please you. Just wait a moment." Then he ran upstairs, for the last time to the fairy garret, where he put on the wishing cap. "No," he thought to himself, "I don't wish that. Every man has one secret from his wife, and this shall be mine." And then he said aloud, "I wish to seem no cleverer than other people." Then he ran downstairs again, and the princess noticed a great difference in him, though of course there was really none at all. And so did everyone, for the prince remained as clever as he had ever been, but as nobody observed it, he became the most popular prince, and finally the best beloved king who had ever sat on the throne of Mantuflia. But occasionally Rosalind would say, "I do believe, my dear, that you really are as clever as ever." And he was.